Welcome to the Contracting Officer Podcast. It's not just for contracting officers. Whether you work for government or industry, if you're anywhere in that government acquisition world, this podcast is for you. We're here to help you understand a little more about how the other side thinks. Thank you for joining us in our mission to make government contracts better one contract at a time. Today we're talking about past performance. Let's get this going. Here we are talking about past performance again. What drove the conversation this time, Kevin?
Baseball. I'm back to being a baseball coach.
Everything.
Between putting decks on houses and baseball. So I was coaching a team, and one of the kids says to me, we needed somebody to play first base. I'm putting kids out on the game. And he says, I can do that. I can play first base. And it was a tournament, which means it was an elimination game. So it counted, right? And of course, I couldn't try him out at first base. He never actually played first base on a team that I managed. Well, it's the same way with the government. They can't try people out. They can't try out contractors when it counts. And note, after the contract award, that's when it counts. When they're paying you to do it, they can't try you out. You have to have some kind of experience. So in this episode, we can expand on the term of past performance, as that's how the government knows you've done this. That's the evidence. Applying the knowledge and experience that you've gained through doing something, and then compounding that as past performance. That's the evidence you can actually do it. That's the evidence you can play first base. I got to have some kind of past performance.
Past performance it's a big part of every source selection, every acquisition, every buy. Mandatory. We'll get to the far part later. And I think what you're saying is right. The basis of past performance is how well did you apply what you know how to do when performing the requirement? How well did you solve the problem? How well did you solve a problem before that you can then use to prove that you can, or support that you can solve the current problem? Anyway, I'm rambling now. Before I ramble more, you weren't rambling.
Usually I'm the rambler.
Right. Let's stop and say thanks.
Thanks this week goes to Ann Baugh. Ann is a retired subcontract manager from BAE. She's out in the San Diego area. I want to thank Ann specifically for liking our podcast on LinkedIn and adding a note when she shared it. She said, the Contracting Officer podcast helps strengthen knowledge.
Ooh, I like that.
The idea of strengthening knowledge, it ties to this episode because you've got the knowledge. We're giving you the knowledge, but you got to be able to apply it. And the best way for people to find this information that we're giving away for free is for people like Ann to share it.
Thanks, Ann. All right, let's get into past performance and how do you apply it? What are we talking about here? Like you said, I can do that. I can play first base is easy to claim.
Yeah, my kids, they use YouTube to learn how to do just about anything. I've learned stuff from them that they learned how to do on YouTube.
So you're saying this kid could have learned how to play first base on YouTube?
I guarantee you there are videos about first base drills on YouTube. That's probably why he thinks that he can do it. Knowledge seems to be everywhere, right? So just because of the Google economy, it's easy to find information. Much of it is free. I mean, it's really amazing what you can learn to do for free on YouTube, or for that matter, on a podcast.
Yeah, I think I learn just about everything on YouTube, or at least try it. Hey, I got new speakers. I'm going to put them in my car. There's a video of how to do that. So now, guess what? I can do it. And it only
took start a business doing that.
It only took me 3 times as long as it said it was going to take, and I was only bleeding from 4 knuckles when I was done.
So if knowledge isn't valuable as a resource because it's so much of it is available for free, well, then what is? And the argument then is that application of the knowledge. In other words, your experience, the evidence that you can actually use this knowledge to do something. And in GovCon speak, that's called past performance.
So proving that we know how to apply the knowledge, not just, hey, I watched the YouTube video, but then I played first base in 10 games. That's the value.
This is like the episode, it's a bit of a stretch, but it's like the episode that you did with Dan Finkenstadt about knowledge-based services. It was episode 252. It's not just having the knowledge. I mean, the service that knowledge-based services provide is that the contractor is applying that knowledge in a way that's valuable to the government. That's why it's knowledge-based services, not just knowledge.
Right. You could have a whole stable full of people that are super smart. That doesn't help the government unless they can apply that to the government's problems.
Right. Or if they have knowledge about the problem that the government doesn't have. Still knowledge, still valuable to somebody, but not actual past performance.
Right. Having the knowledge is not the valuable part, or it's not perceived to be valuable unless it can be applied. So why are we talking about this again?
One of the best ways in government contracting, specifically, to show we can apply the knowledge is through documented past performance. That's how you show that that's the evidence. That's how you show you can actually do this. It shows how well we've done something for others. I mean, we've talked about using past performance as a bridge back in episode 124. And the reason that past performance is a bridge is because it shows that you've applied the knowledge, applied the experience. It's not just a matter of having the knowledge. And the better your past performance, the easier it is to bridge to the next opportunity, because that's how you get referrals. That's how you get testimonials. That's how you have more and more evidence that you can do this.
That's the bridge we were talking about in past performance as a bridge. Bridge you from your current work to your next work. That past performance is what helps you walk over that chasm to the next contract. The trick is you have to document it. That's what matters in the GovCon world, is being able to document your past performance.
Well, and that's why one of the services that we provide to our members is that we review or even maintain their past performance library, because you've got to document this stuff. When it's happening, you have to think about writing it down and quantifying it and being able to use it 6 months, a year, a couple of years from now. And that's not always easy to do.
When we first started, I mentioned we'd get to FAR time. We're there now.
Woohoo!
Starting right at the beginning of the FAR, Section 1, Part 1, 1.102, Statement of Guiding Principles for the Federal Acquisition System.
We're up at the high level here.
The guiding principles. This is subparagraph B1. This federal acquisition system will satisfy the customer in terms of cost, quality, timeliness of the delivered product or service by, for example, maximizing the use of commercial products and services. So if it is a commercial product and service, the commercial world is buying it. There's proof that it works. The next says using contractors who have a track record of successful past performance who demonstrate a current superior ability to perform. And the next one is promoting competition, which doesn't really tie into the past performance piece so much. But the point of this part of the FAR is that it prioritizes that a track record of successful past performance is one of the guiding principles in who the government is going to buy from.
Hence the importance of past performance.
Before we get back to the meat of this, let's talk about where this fits in the acquisition and execution time zones. In the acquisition time zone side, this really starts in the market research zone. So you've got your requirements already. Market research zone is where you start looking out there. Who has done this kind of work before? You know, you're looking for who can do the work. Start with who's already done this kind of thing. And then, of course, it applies in the RFP zone. When the RFPs have been released, contractors are writing their proposals and citing that past performance, explaining how that applies to what we're doing now. And the source selection zone is where the government evaluates that past performance and uses it as one of the discriminators a lot of times.
On the execution time zones and the execution side, it's in the performance zone, because the performance zone, that's where you're stacking up that experience. That's where you're documenting that past performance. That's where you're putting that past performance in the bank so that you can cash it in when it's time to compete for the next contract.
So you are performing, which leads to past performance. If we fast forward to the future, what you're performing now is your past performance.
You sound like you're in a time zone. And if you're not familiar with the acquisition time zones, they're in episode 3, and the execution time zones are in episode 84.
Let's dive into why the government cares about past performance. We've talked in multiple episodes about companies starting their sales pitch, starting the conversation with the government with their socioeconomic status, and then pretty much claim to be able to do whatever the government's asked you to do now. So you start out, I'm a veteran-owned small business.
Give me a contract. It's a little bit too short. As a contracting officer, that's not a compelling sales pitch. It's not one I can do a whole lot with. Honestly, it's an entitlement pitch. It hits people the wrong way. What have you done, right? Start with that. Lots of contractors can offer to do anything. Every player can offer to play first base. Don't start with that.
Don't start with, I'm a veteran of the armed services, so I can play first base. No.
Yeah, I've played first base in 10 games. Oh, by the way, I'm a veteran.
Yeah.
It's a much more compelling argument. Although I don't know why you'd have a veteran play for, anyway. That was going off the rails.
Right. I don't know why I took it there. What happens when a contractor approaches you or bids, I can do that versus I've done that in past performance?
This creates risk of mission impact. I mean, right out of the gate. When I would get proposals with this as a contracting officer, I wondered, okay, number one, can they actually do it? Or they're just able to say that they can do it, right? And if they can, how well can they do it? It may be a relatively simple task like facilities maintenance. There are pieces of that anybody can do, but can you manage a team to do it? Can you get it done on time? Can you recruit the people to do it? Can you make sure they're all going to show up when it snows? Raising my hand because we had a problem with that. People weren't hiring the right people. How confident am I as a contracting officer? And here's where it gets real fun. How can I increase my confidence? When they send me the proposal, yeah, I can do this. Okay, you probably can. How do I increase that confidence? Past performance.
If you screw up that award decision and you award to someone that really is saying, I can do that, but you don't have enough confidence in, what happens then?
Again, mission impact. They could not deliver it all, or they could deliver late. And I had one of those because what the impact of that, other than the mission impact, where now it's a late delivery, it's the cost of administering the contract because now you're making modifications, you have equitable adjustments, you end up with cost overruns, then you have to ask your customer for more funds to pay for tweaks to the contract. And then here's the real fear is what if they actually can't get it done? That's mission impact. Now, I've had a couple of these where I didn't quite do enough due diligence in the past performance because they were done under duress in a hurry. And there were pieces of the contract they didn't perform as well as they said they would. Well, it's because they'd never done it before. They'd done 80% of the contract, but that 20% at the end, which is the part where delivery happens, they didn't handle that as smoothly and it didn't show up on time, which was a problem. Yeah, and it's a problem I'm blamed for.
Right. We're not trying to say that it's guaranteed that things are going to go wrong if someone's not done something before. Sometimes the government wants something done that's never been done. That's not the usual, though. Most things the government wants done are done regularly. So it's not a guarantee that things are going to go wrong. It's just more likely. You're adding risk to the equation. I had a contract where it was a socioeconomic set aside, and we gave them a sole source, not follow on, but a sole source other separate contract to do something that was similar, but not the same as they were doing for us because they said, oh, don't worry. That's the same. That's really, it's basically the same thing. Just give it to us. And that was the case of what if they can't do it? They never delivered it, and we ended up terminating that contract. But it was they had no past performance of doing it. They just thought they could, and I guess I did too. Requiring the proven experience delivering a product or service is really the best way to keep from awarding to someone who can't actually do it or who can't do it well.
There are two rabbit trails that we're going to step around right now. Number one of the questions that comes up is past performance questionnaires. Is how do you prove this past performance? So we're not going to go down past performance questionnaires because they're not always the best way to get that experience. We'll talk about that as another episode at some point. Another topic is what if you don't have any past performance? The FAR states that if you don't have past performance, you're treated as neutral. Well, what does that mean? And again, that concept is a little bit complicated. It's a podcast for another day. I know it's going through other people's head because it's going through mine while we're talking.
Agreed. Let's move on to the industry side. Why does industry care about this? I think it's pretty clear that if you don't have past performance or you haven't documented it or you can't explain how it applies, you have a lower chance of winning whatever you're bidding on.
Past performance, it's a compounding investment. When you document your past performance and you show what you've done well, it makes it easier to convince people to give you more work doing that. And
which gives you more past performance if you perform well, which gives you more proof that you can do the work, which gives you a better chance of winning more. And it compounds. Wow, I had to explain compounding. That's weird. I wonder why I did that.
It's an upward spiral. Now, funny thing is, well, not funny, awkward thing is, so is bad past performance. Once you get a couple of bad CPARs, it's a downward spiral. So again, rabbit trail of how important performance is.
The important part is documenting it, not just doing it, but proving that you've done it through documentation.
Documenting what problem you solved. That's the critical piece. Past performance is designed to show how you applied knowledge and experience. Because without application, we're using YouTube videos again. You just have knowledge. And thanks to Google and YouTube, a lot of knowledge is available for free. So think about past performance as showing how you applied the experience you have.
So in the instance of me installing speakers in my car, if I was trying to use that as past performance, I could tell people that I had watched the video, but if they actually saw the results and my bloody knuckles, they would question whether I really had the ability to apply the knowledge that I had learned from YouTube.
Is that considered recent and relevant past performance? I don't think so.
I think bad past performance is what it would have been considered. Give me another example of the difference between knowledge and application of that knowledge.
We had a hater on LinkedIn and people that don't like your content. He basically said that we were regurgitating the FAR and anybody can do this podcast.
Ouch. Did somebody really say that?
And of course, if you're a regular listener, hopefully you don't feel like we're just regurgitating the FAR and we're applying this knowledge. It's 250 some episodes later. That's the difference is we could just read the FAR. We can make the FAR podcast and literally just read it. That would be knowledge. It'd be exceedingly boring, but it would just be knowledge.
I try to keep that FAR time as short as possible because I'm afraid people are going to fall asleep or drive their cars off the road or something if we spend too much time on the FAR. But someone had that opinion. That's fine. That's fine. That's their opinion.
But there's always one.
Hopefully only one.
For the rest of you who actually like the content, I guess, think about how to apply this. And here's an easy way. Review a recent proposal that you've completed. Did you really explain how you have done the work? Or did you explain how you could do it? One way to tell the difference is as you're reading this, say, how do I know they've actually done this?
Yeah, and it's not just how you've done this, but it's how what you've done relates to the job at hand if it's not exactly the same. You really have to help link the experience to the current acquisition in the reader's mind, in the government's mind as they're evaluating.
And this stuff is hard, I admit. Yeah, we can help. Check out the Skyway community at skywaymember.com if you want help with this.
There's the plug of the day. You get one, or we try to keep it to a one. Let's wrap this one up.
On the government side, focus on application. Write RFPs that focus on what offers can do, not just on what they know. And beware of, or should know, and beware of offers who are all icing and no cake. In other words, hey, look at our great marketing. This is all the stuff that we could do if you gave us a contract, as opposed to here's our past performance of what we've actually done. Here are the contracts, here are the people, etc.
So marketing is icing and application is cake?
Yes. It's another metaphor. On the industry side, document your past performance in terms of how well you applied what you know. Just having served in some capacity is not the same as being able to apply it in a way that solves problems. I mean, that's where the gold is. Just saying that you did something, that's icing. Where you say, this is who I did it for, this is how it helped them. That's the cake. That's the inside the icing.
All right, I'll end by saying it can be difficult to do what you're saying. It can be difficult to explain how what you did for one customer applies to the current acquisition. Just saying we did this for them isn't enough.
True.
It's not quite icing, but it's close to icing. It's how will you use the experience and knowledge that you gained on the previous jobs that you've done to solve this customer's unique problem. And saying that, hey, customer, your problem isn't unique. We've done this 1,000 times. That's sort of a poor strategy because every customer, every government agency thinks that they're special and have special problems. And I say that as someone that worked in special places that thought that we were different and better. I had a whole bunch of programs that thought what they were doing is unique. And once contractors got in there and started doing the job, you found out how similar you are to other programs.
As a rule of sales, you don't want to tell somebody they're an average customer.
Exactly.
Which is what that sounds like. So that's a rule in business is every customer, every company, every organization is unique. So yeah, that whole idea of we've done this for 1,000 people. You're just one more to add to the list.
Right.
That's not a great sales pitch.
It's you're special. We've done similar things for 1,000 people. And
there
here's how doing those similar things will help.
There you go.
All right. That's it for today. I'll talk to you later, Kevin.
All right. See you, Paul.
That is it for today. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the podcast, we invite you to check out the Skyway community at skywaymember.com. The Skyway community is the essential resource for anyone at any stage of starting, growing, and running a business with government contracts. We speak GovCon. Whether you're brand new to GovCon, just got your first contract, or if you're already a successful government contractor, being a Skyway community member gives you the edge. With our extensive tools and training, exclusive member discounts on consulting support, and a supportive and active community of peers to help you along the way, the Skyway community is the perfect place for anyone who's serious about winning new business. To learn more, call 877-884-5280 or check us out at skywaymember.com. We'll see you next week.